So how'd you guys meet? Like, what's your connection?
Well, his family walked down a dark alley one night,
After
and I
watching
really
The Mask
liked
of
the
Zorro,
pearls.
yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Inside Comics with George Michail. Really quick, if you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe and tell a friend about it. Today, I'm super psyched. I'm joined by MechaTon co-writers Wells Thomas and Dalton Shannon. Thanks so much for being on the show, guys.
Well, yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem at all. It's THOMPSON, but I appreciate the effort.
Oh, sorry, I got a little excited.
It's all good.
So MechaTon is on Kickstarter right now. There's a link in the description of this video. So everyone out there, click that link and go and support this project. It's super cool. Wells, can you tell us, Wells and Dalton, can you tell us a little bit about writing together? How did your partnership come together, and what's it like working together?
So depending on what project we're doing, we set someone who's kind of the point person and makes sort of the final decision on everything. But really, it's someone writes the first draft, someone takes it over, writes the second draft, and then we pass it back and forth until we both really love it. And generally, we get to a point where like a decision doesn't really have to be made. We just are both kind of happy with the product. But we always want to make sure that there's one voice going into it and that it all sounds unified by the end.
Yeah, it's a big tennis match that ends up coming together.
Yeah, it can be difficult. I've written a few projects with co-writers, and you want to be sensitive to the other person's input, but at the same time, like maybe you have something that you're really passionate about,
right?
So
well, the kind of rapport that we have, it's a lot more like, hey, this isn't gonna work, idiot. Come on, let's fix this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're a little
it helps
rough
to
with
be
each other,
friends.
Yeah. No, we're very, we know at the end of the day that we're friendly and we can have a beer together and no feelings are going to be hurt by the end of it, even when we disagree. And there have been times where we've really disagreed about the directions of stories and what certain characters are doing, but we eventually come together to make it work.
Yeah, no MechaTon plot point is going to get in the way. Now, MechaTon money might, but who knows? As long as my check be clearing.
What are the positives of writing with a partner?
Oh, there's so many. We've each done projects solo and together, and both of them have their benefits. But specifically, co-writing allows you to essentially have a free editor right on your shoulder. Especially when you have a good rapport with your co-writer. You can bounce ideas off somebody that's not just like a brick wall or somebody who's like being paid to just like tell you what you want to hear. It helps make the final product something that really shines as two voices that feel like one vision. You can kind of get lost in the sauce if you are doing something solo sometimes. So having somebody to help ground you a little bit or push it further is always great.
Mm-hmm. And we really, especially with me and Dalton, we tend to balance out each other's kind of strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, Dalton always has his eyes on like what's going to be the most fun, what's going to be the most bonkers way to do this, how's the plot going to move forward in the most like explosive and fun way possible. And I tend to think more thematically. So I'm like, okay, that's great. How can we tie this into what we want to say overall? And the result is we get a really coherent kind of story that works in the micro and the macro.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah, no, it sounds like you guys really bring out the best in each other.
We try to, yeah.
I really like working with partners too, because like they kind of keep me honest. It's like,
yes,
you're not gonna like slack off on your project because someone's like expecting pages from you. So that's something I really like. On the
Very
flip side, what are the negatives of writing with a partner? Not to like start a war between you two.
I mean, sometimes there are times when it can be frustrating when you have an idea that you're really, holding on to passionately, and they're like, "Hey, I don't think it worked." And even admitting that more often than not, like when Dalton says, "Hey, I don't think this works," it's usually right for a good reason. But there are definitely those frustrations that you're like, "But I just want to make it the way I want to make it." You're ruining that.
Writing for the most part to me is like inherently solitary a process. So to even have a co-writer in the rooms is kind of rubbing against like the core of the writing process. So there's a lot of ego involved with any writer, and so to kind of have the two egos rubbing against each other like that, it can get a little bristly, but there's friction, but it's that friction usually helps to like sharpen the tool, to continue the strained metaphor. It makes the product better at the end of the day to have that friction, rather than having somebody just say, "Yeah, this is cool," and they go with it, or just like stand still and say, "No, we're not doing this." Having that balance can play up, but you got to let go of some ego. That was apparent right from the get-go.
For sure.
Yeah, well, it's incredibly vulnerable, right? Especially like when it's like early days and you're just kind of putting together your concept, and it's like maybe you say something and you put something out there that's not really well thought out, and it's like, oh yeah, that's terrible. What are you talking about?
Or even worse, when you're like receiving the idea and you're like, okay, yeah, that works really well, except for this one part, and it's nothing to you, but you can tell for them, they're like, but that's the whole thing. That I like that.
We have both sent each other individual projects that we both consider like our babies, and the other one has just torn them to shreds, rightfully so. And we absolutely. For the guy getting it back, it's a little heartbreaking, and for the guy who's sending it, it's like, oh, that was rough, that was hard. Oh boy.
So let's get into it. What is MechaTon? Can you please describe it to our viewers at home?
Absolutely. MechaTon is a rule of cool, all ages, punch 'em up science fiction comic about a glove that crash lands on Earth. A brother and sister find it and discover that anything they punch turns into a robot, specifically a battle mech. So they punch a hot dog cart and it turns into a big brawler with a condiment cannon and an umbrella shield. And where there are mechs, there are always kaiju. So kaiju come and start destroying the place, and they have to work together to save the town.
That's crazy, guys. That's crazy. So are the mechs, these are like the good guys?
Yes. Well, yes.
Well, they're dumb kids, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Punching anything in sight to make robots out of. Yeah.
And who are these kaiju, and what do they want?
The kaiju, just for the most part, one of my favorite things about the kaiju is that each of them has kind of their own reason for doing what they're doing that is completely subtext. But they are just they're insects that have been irradiated by the glove crash landing on Earth. So they get irradiated, they grow to massive size, and then the first one, Dihedapod, in issue 1. He's just confused. He's just running around because he doesn't know what he is and how, like, he doesn't understand what being big means. They're a lot of fun. And then, the big bad guys are always the people, sort of on the periphery, but the big monster throwdowns are, giant insects that have their own motives and generally are not trying to be evil, just trying to do their own thing.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the series as a whole is that the villains, the antagonists, kind of evolve with the mech. So our first arc is very kaiju heavy. Our second arc is generally more like battling other mechs, and then like the third arc is like
it is going to be nuts.
Is like so over the top that the combatants get a little wild. But each thing kind of grows in motivation along with the story. So that's always a lot of fun to play off against, and also figuring out what can they punch next to turn into the robot to deal with it.
Okay, so who is this series for? Like, who should buy this series?
Everybody, go. No.
I like it.
Kids of all ages, young and old, I think. People who are nostalgic for things like Transformers and Late Night Toonami, people who love comics like Murder Falcon and Scott Pilgrim, and more recently stuff like Witchblood and By the Horns, I think would love this comic. It's Scott Pilgrim meets Pacific Rim. If either of those properties appeal to you, I think you'll love MechaTon.
Yeah, no, I've always loved like giant monsters like King Kong and Godzilla, and Pacific Rim was dope. So this sounds like right up my alley. So I'm totally feeling it. Can you tell me a little bit about the art team and who's bringing this to life for you guys?
So we've got Fernando Pinto on the line art duties. Chilean art professor who's been a joy to work with. Dude somehow takes, and now he punches a house and it's a robot and makes it into the coolest looking robot you've ever seen. With all the, and we have all the practical weapons in there. We're not even thinking, how does the chimney cannon sit on the robot? But he's like, okay, here it is. It's all ready to go. And of course, brought to life with Megan Casey's colors, who is helped with some flats by Fred Stressing every now and again. And then we have Nathan Kempf, who has been a great help on lettering for so many projects with us, helping bring this one to life as well. Especially his kaiju dialogue balloons are always great.
And then shout out to Brenda Snelby, who does the logo and the design for the book. She is phenomenal, and having her on board makes my life like a million times easier. Just takes so much off of my plate.
So what are you guys offering in this Kickstarter? What can you get specifically?
Oh geez, tons of stuff. We've got, so you can opt for just the digital PDF, and that's totally fine. We have obviously physical copies. We have 3 different covers, and our standard A covers by Fernando Pinto. We're funding 2 different books, by the way, so it's 6 covers total. The variant covers are the same price as the standard covers, so when you get a physical copy, you get a choice of either one. The variant covers are by Alex Moore and Fred Stressing. They're homages to Super Metroid and Fantastic Four #1, respectively. And then a couple of Kickstarter variants, our Kickstarter exclusive variants by Ele Gonzalez and Lane Lloyd, which are just beautiful and fantastic, and I'm very excited to have them on board. We have catch-up tiers, we have collector's tiers, we have stuff for everyone. We run a 20% off sale for the first 72 hours of the campaign, so buy in early and you get a little bit of a discount. We have stickers, we have posters, we have all sorts of art from all sorts of people, including a original commission tier. So we have, I think, 3 slots of that. If you want an original commission from series artist Fernando Pinto, he will grant you one, as well as an Adopt-A-Page program. So this is like a digital way of getting like the original artwork, so to speak. Everything is done digitally. So obviously we can't like mail you a big Bristol board with the original inks on it. But what we can do is put your name on the page, put your name in the book, saying that you adopted it, and send you a 11x17 print of the page for you to put up and sort of display in your house.
That's cool.
And if you're just checking MechaTon out for the first time, this is the end of the first arc, so all 5 issues are available digitally or physically. So jump on in feed first.
Absolutely. This is the best time you could possibly have to get into the series, because it's the first full kind of arc story. You're getting a complete trade, essentially, it just in floppy form.
That is awesome. Yeah. I know. I love getting the whole story, and sometimes you just got to wait, and now you can just jump in and get the whole thing right now, binge it. So it's awesome. Awesome. So there's a link in the description to MechaTon. Everyone out there, click that link and go back this project. It's super cool. Wells, Dalton, I want to thank you for being on Inside Comics.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. Until next time, peace. And that's it.
Dope.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think that was neat.